We hope everyone enjoyed our, quote, unboxing a few shows ago where Fatty and I revealed that we each received boxes from our friends at Laser Helmets. Laser has a new rotational impact system called Kineticor. It works like MIPS, but it is a technology that Laser developed.
And already, Laser's Kineticor helmets have earned 5-star status at the renowned Virginia Tech Helmet Test Lab. The Vento, Strata, Jackal, and Citizen with Kineticor all received top scores from Virginia Tech. Laser now has 15 helmets that received their coveted 5-star safety rating. No other helmet company comes close to matching that.
So like we said, Fatty and I are field testing our new helmets now, and we'll continue to talk about them. We can tell you about fit, and in the case of Kineticor, there is a little more room compared to the same sized Laser helmets with MIPS. And when comparing to other brands, I can say that my medium Laser Kineticor is similar in size to like my old medium POC with MIPS.
Spoiler alert, I love my new Laser helmet, and not just because it's orange and goes with my kit and my bike. One other note about Laser, it's a true bike helmet company. It is their primary focus, which is why you see so many categories and models on their website. For instance, if you have kids, or even if you don't, check out the kids line of helmets by Laser. They have 5 models, each in like 5 or 6 different colors. Whether your kid is just learning to ride or still in a kid seat, this is really good head protection for them.
Yeah, when I was at Seattle at the Laser booth, my eyes were immediately drawn to the kids' nuts helmet. That thing was cool. I mean, really. Had a little spaceship paint job on it. I wanted one for my own noggin, but unfortunately, I'm not under 10 years old, so it doesn't quite fit. I tell you, Fatty, if I was like 50 years younger, I'd be all over that thing. To check out the Kineticor helmets and the entire Laser lineup, go to lasersport.us.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Shimano. You can find that at bike.shimano.com. We're up to Season 5, Episode 10 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest, hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I am Michael Houghton, Hottie to Most.
And I am Fatty. We are headed for the high point of the Leadville 100, Columbine or bust. Hopefully not bust. This is the kind of climb that keeps you awake at night, but hopefully we can tell you what you need to know to get up that thing in one piece and leave you with a little bit of peace of mind.
We are also checking in with race director Tamira Jenlink. She has some important info and updates for this year's Leadville Trail 100, and Tamira will also answer some of the questions submitted by you, the racers. I really haven't said much about this particular item on this show, but I have been, folks, teaching myself how to play the guitar. Shocking. I suck, by the way. But it's a lot like mountain biking in that it is challenging. So while I stink, I love the challenge. For instance, like mountain biking, with guitar playing, you need technical skills. You got to stick with it when the things get hard. You need rhythm, kind of like tapping out a rhythm when you're pedaling. Like your spokes, your strings need to be properly tensioned. So a lot of parallels. Guitars and mountain biking. Follow me? But here's where the two go in dramatically different directions. While I'm a pretty good mountain biker, I'm just the opposite as a guitarist. Oh, I'm having fun, but that fun is coming at the expense of Mrs. Hottie's ears.
Oh, poor Mrs. Hottie. We're not going to ask you to play anything on the show, at least not yet. Hopefully, one day we'll see you on the Powerline climb strumming away as Leadville racers grind it out. I would love to see that. Until then, let me suggest a little inspiration that combines both worlds, mountain biking and guitar playing. Our friends at DNA have a jersey that does the trick. It is the EVH BioFit jersey, and EVH, of course, stands for Eddie Van Halen. the greatest rock guitarist who has ever lived.
Yeah, and that EVH jersey is done up in the colors and design of Eddie's famous Frankenstrat guitar. You know, the one with the crazy red and white splashes all over the body? Well, that has been put on a DNA jersey, and that may be the thing I need to jumpstart my playing.
Oh, that would go perfect with you rocking out at the base of the power line. The EVH is only one of several great jerseys DNA has on hand. They have a Haight-Ashbury design, a cosmic bowling look, and a lava lamp design. DNA is mostly about custom kits, of course, but they know that not everyone has the time or patience for custom, so for them, DNA has some killer-looking jerseys that are ready for order right now. You'll stand out so your crew can see you, and for Hadi, you know, he might appreciate another rock star coming by. And, maybe Hadi, you might play like one too.
Maybe. One day. Playing Eruption or Running with the Devil are a long way off for me, but getting into an EVH BioFit jersey by DNA, well, that's something I can get done now. Check out all the cool kits from DNA at dnacycling.com.
Every part of this course kicks you in the teeth.
This is The Course. We are talking you through what you need to do to have the best possible day on the Leadville 100 course, from the shotgun blast to the moment you roll up the red carpet and the 105 miles in between.
So last time on the course, we took you from the pipeline aid station to the Twin Lake Dam. And that is one aid station that doubles as a massive party.
Huge party there. We are now picking up at mile 40.7. A quick overview on this section of the course. Fatty's Strava for last year is an easy way to check out. Just go to leadville.fm/Strava. If you've raced the LT 100 before, but not last year, pay attention to this episode, because as of last year, this part of the course is much different than before.
Yeah, coming out of Twin Lakes Dam, you are immediately kicked in the teeth, as Dave Ween says at the beginning of this course segment every episode. You've got this short but very tough, it hurts, little climb on double track. About 200 feet of climbing in about a mile. And with a very memorable, you'll remember this, Hadi, about 50 feet. Super kick in the teeth, right at the top, right at mile 42. Have your granny gear ready, because if you don't, if you are over-geared, you might find that you are underprepared for how much this little kicker hurts.
Mm-hmm. Surprisingly technical in here, so some boulders and rocks to kind of avoid, or picking a line to just keep your speed going. This area can feel especially hard because you've been descending and riding flats and possibly letting your legs cool down. Maybe you stopped at the dam, and now you've got some effort to dole out.
That is right. So after you get to the short summit here, you have a rest for the last time in, frankly, a long time. You've got a short but fun downhill, and that is about the same amount that you've just climbed, about 200 feet in about 0.4 of a mile.
Right. Now, let's look at the new stuff. This new workaround piece that we got as a present from Lifetime last year. So about mile 42.4, the veterans will remember, well, we used to go right and kind of climb up into those sort of foothill areas and move back and forth in there. In fact, there was a really old version of the course that kind of moved more towards the trees. But anyhow, you used to go right here at 42.4, no longer. Now you go left, right? This is because the race no longer utilizes a half mile or so of private property, which we could never use during our warm-ups. Like if you went out and recon this part of the course, this was always closed to you. Now you don't have to worry about not knowing a small section of the course, because now it goes left and stays in what is essentially public property.
That's correct. You're staying on public roads. So at mile 42.4, you are taking this left turn, and you have a straight, barely downhill, but downhill nonetheless, for about 0.8 of a mile. And then you are going to make a sort of right turn onto pavement, and that pavement lasts for literally 5 seconds or so. And then it curves around, you're back on dirt road again. Last year, and I hope they do this again this year, Cycles of Life actually had their van there where they were doing neutral mechanic support. So if by any chance you've got something that is kind of going wrong, this may not be a bad spot to get some help from some great guys who know a lot about bikes. Honestly, if you need neutral support, think about this right around mile 40, 43, 44 or so. Get some help from Cycles of Life. Good friends of the show there. Hopefully you won't need it.
Right. And after that 5 seconds on pavement, you make a right, and now you're essentially doubling back from the direction you just came. So you're going to be going westbound if you have a compass out, but you're going to be back pointing uphill briefly. So you're doubling back from the direction you came. And then about 0.7 miles, you're going to turn left onto a Jeep road. And this Jeep road looks a little familiar. First of all, there are power lines that go right down the stretch of it. Second of all, the condition of this road is a lot like the old section we used to pop out on when we came through the private property section. So it's a lot like that and feels a lot like that as you start to head for the main wide road that takes you up the Columbine climb.
That's right. And then this Jeep road goes for, this sort of dusty 0.7 of a mile, and then a right turn. And if you look up the road, and I do mean up, because you are climbing again, and you better get used to it, because you are going to be doing nothing but climbing for the rest of your life. At least that's how it's going to feel like. But anyway, you can see the Twin Lake Dam alternate feed zone. Look for Hottie. He's going to be waving you in, or he's going to be waving me in.
Yeah, and like Twin Lakes Dam, Twin Lakes alternate kind of has two sections. This Jeep road we described that kind of goes under the power lines, and when you make the right onto the main road, there are more feeders along both sides of the road there too. So there is not the chaos you see at the dam, but there's still a lot of activity here. So just look out for that, and look for people, obviously, who are going to be pulling over, especially on that tighter Jeep road. People are going to, if you're behind somebody, they could unexpectedly pull off to the right or even the left, going for their feed. So just watch for those folks as you're coming down that Jeep road, and obviously as you turn right onto the main road that'll point you towards the Columbine climb. You rejoin the traditional course at mile 45. You've definitely taken the long way around because, this is the same point that used to be at about mile 43.1. So here's where those added miles come in. This is why we have a 105-mile race now. So this course change has added about 1.9 miles to your journey to the base of Columbine.
Yep, and on the way back, it's going to add another 1.9. And for that reason, you add those two together, you got 3.8 miles, and they've shortened it in a couple of other places. One of them, we'll be talking about in next episode, your turnaround point is going to be a little bit sooner, and that is important. And that is, in fact, kind of good news, right? So this course change has put you on a little bit more fast dirt road. It's fast miles, and it puts you at the single lowest point you are going to be in the day. At some point, as you go by the bike shop van, you're going to hit about 9,250 in terms of feet. That's your altitude. That is still high. That is higher than most of us go most days, right? But adding miles at this lower altitude, and it is fast miles instead of this chunky, climby, mud hole riddled double track at the turnaround, which is what we used to have, is a trade you were going to be grateful for in about 7 miles. I promise. So at mile 45, you hit Twin Lake Dam alternate. If you're me, you pull over, find your crew, you fuel up, and you are ready for, in earnest, the Columbine climb.
You're on a wide, very wide dirt road at this point that has a name, and it's slipped out of my brain at this point. I just know where it is. I know how to drive there. And
is it Lost Canyon?
The Lost Canyon. You win the prize, Fatty. It is Lost Canyon. You're absolutely correct. This is the main drag. In fact, Lost Canyon is something you want to write down, because if you're going to send your crew out here, tell them to go to Lost Canyon. That's where they're going. So the Columbine climb starts essentially at mile 45 even. And this is the moment you've been dreaming about, right? Or dreading,
yep,
depending on how you look at it. You're going to climb from 9,250 feet, the lowest point in the race, to 12,400 feet, the highest point in the race. Isn't that a joy?
It is. It is why we come do this race, right? If you had this exact same course and, starting from your hometown, Hottie, it'd still be a serious climb on the merits, but it wouldn't be something that everyone would do and, make a bucket list item. The fact that you were doing this incredibly difficult climb now at this altitude is what brings us all here. So you've got a turnaround point at mile 52 even. If you pay attention to your GPS, maybe you want to keep that number in mind. Your turnaround, we're always wanting to think Leadville 100, so your turnaround must be 50 miles, but it's the Leadville 105, and your turnaround is at mile 52.0. So keep that number in mind. And 3,150 feet of climbing in 7 miles. The fact is, in one single climb in this race, you're going to go from about 9,000 feet to 10,000 feet to 11,000 feet. And then to 12,000 feet. And then you're going to keep on climbing. It's what makes this race unlike anything in the world. It is going to, at some point, crush your soul.
Yeah, so suffice to say, this is a lot of climbing over a fairly short section, at least as it pertains to the Leadville 100. 7 miles of 105 miles, and you're going to do 3,150 feet of climbing. That's a big chunk of your climbing for the whole day. And here's the deal with Columbine. At some point, it's going to punch you right in the gut. And it does differ from person to person. Everyone kind of has that altitude limit. And you're going to feel it somewhere along this climb where you're going to cross kind of this threshold, and suddenly you're going to feel like you're having the worst time ever. You might feel like a bonk's coming on. You're probably not going to want to eat, although you should. You might want to even sit down for a while. You shouldn't do that either.
Yeah, I see people doing all of these things, and I have done most of them myself. I have so many times just said, I'll eat later. I just can't eat right now. I am breathing too hard. I can't get something down. I'll drink later. I am not thirsty. I'm gonna stop here just for a minute because I am so tired. I need just a minute. Here's the strategy for succeeding on Columbine. 2-point strategy. First, don't give up. We seriously aren't kidding about all of these things, but the fact is 0 miles per hour does much worse things to your average speed than 2 miles an hour or even 1 mile an hour. If you have to get off your bike and walk for a minute, do. That is fine, but keep moving forward. Take comfort in this. Everyone around you feels exactly as bad as you do.
And here's the other thing. Number 2, don't stop eating and drinking. Yes, we say it all the time. Yes, it's tough on Columbine because you're going uphill and breathing hard, but you somehow have to at least keep taking in fluids and food. This is an opportunity to do that too, because you're not going fast. You're going to be going fast in a short while and not be able to do this. So now is the time to keep topping off those fuel storages. You're breathing hard, right. That's okay. Just try to get in what you can. If you don't fuel now, though, you're just lighting a fuse for self-destruction on this course. Fatty made this mistake like 14 years in a row. On his 15th year, he made himself keep eating on the Columbine climb, and he dropped an hour from his time and finished under 9 hours.
Yep. For 15 years, I tried to beat 9 hours. Couldn't do it. Couldn't understand why. The fact is, what it was is that as I made the call, as I did this Columbine climb, I told myself this very convenient lie. I will eat in a minute. You can't do that. You gotta, what works for me, and I think this is a good general rule. Set something on your GPS so that it reminds you every 20 minutes or every 25 minutes or every 30 minutes or whatever you work out during your training. And it is a rule, not a suggestion. Time to eat, time to drink, keep some fuel in that pipeline. Otherwise, you are going to go from what feels like a bonk right now to what is a true bonk at around mile 60 in this race. It's an eating contest disguised as a race. It holds true here more than anywhere else. Okay, let's talk about the course. Right after Twin Lake Dam alternative, mile 45, the road bends to the left, and you're on the Columbine climb proper, okay? It is wide. It is generally really well graded. Up until around mile 50, it is not technical. But it is going to kick your ass. It shows you, right at the beginning, right after you make this left bend, that it is not fooling around. It takes a super steep turn. It takes this super steep climb for half a mile or so. It is 12% for a couple, for what feels like forever, but it's just less than half a mile. And it fools you into thinking that this is what it's going to be, that you need to back off all the way and stay backed off for the rest of the ride. That's not true. It is going to ease up.
But it backs off and you roll past a campsite and your legs will just start screaming here, just in time for it to kick up again. So look for the campsite. The campsite's your little warning that. And sometimes, Fatty, when you can anticipate the next tough thing coming up, that whole mental preparation really is a nice advantage to have. Yeah, it doesn't mean that Columbine gets any less steep, but if you know something's coming, you can get ready for it. So again, that campsite should be a little marker in your mind. Okay, there's the campsite. I know what's coming again. Another hard pitch is coming again.
And it also means that while you are at the campsite and it kind of bends and curves around, you have a minute to prepare, right? And that is sort of going to be the story of your life as you climb up Columbine. You have moments where you can recover. There are, I forget how many switchbacks, I think 8. I genuinely have never successfully counted them, even though I always start going, I'm going to count the switchbacks this time. Looking at the map, pretty sure it's 8 switchbacks in this 5 miles. And anytime there is a switchback, there is something very soon after that is going to give you a short recovery period. And, just do your best to give yourself, take those moments to eat something, to drink something, and to stay together, keep moving forward. It is so tough. I simply refuse to minimize this part of the course. It is difficult. It is why you are doing this, and it is going to be the test that you talk about when you tell stories to your friends at home.
Again, you're in the tree section here, folks. This is still all the beautiful aspen trees in here, by the way. So a very nice part of the Columbine climb. If it is warm out or, this is not a bad spot, even though you're going uphill, you will get some cover here, which is great. So let's talk about what you're going to see in addition to aspen trees and how to kind of act and behave during this section of the course. No matter who you are going to start encountering two-way traffic on this part of the Leadville 100 course, the Columbine climb. If you're one of the fastest riders, the fastest 100 or so, it's because you'll see people coming up while you're going down this section of the road. And of course, vice versa if you're outside of the top 100.
For the rest of us, you're going to have a front row seat to the pointy end of the race. And this is one of the things I love about this course. Seeing these incredible racers. I remember seeing Keegan Swenson last year as he was at the front of the race. And I don't think I've ever talked about this before, Hadi, but in the final switchback where there is some kind of mechanical equipment, honestly, I don't remember exactly what it looks like, but it's one of the last 2 switchbacks, I guess. As Keegan came down it, motorcycle in front of him, he actually rode up onto his nose, onto a nose wheelie, pivoted it around, and continued on down. That guy is a technical marvel. He is not just faster than a scalded cat. I was able to witness him actually playing a little on the descent on this course. You won't see many people doing things like that, but you are going to see some of the most talented, some of the fastest racers in the world, especially this year with the Grand Prix. But you're going to get to see who is in the lead at that moment and how close they have people on their tails. And it's a lot of fun. Take a moment, yell for them if you can, but more importantly, be sure you are far over on the right side of the road so that there is no chance of a collision.
Yeah, speeds are quite high here, especially for the folks going downhill. I've always seen I should say I've never seen a close call here, but I've heard of things happening. Things can happen, and that's why Fatty's advice to stay to the right when you're climbing or stay to the right, obviously, when you're descending is good advice. It is a wide road here in the tree section, right? So there should be no reason for interaction, if you will. But again, it's better to be super safe than really sorry. We'll worry about the downhill part for another time. For now, let's say you've survived to mile 50, you've broken out of the trees, and now you've got 2 miles of some riding and probably some walking to get to the turnaround, which is what we'll talk about next episode on the course.
I loved hearing from our friend Roy Berry and his experience in the White Corral a few episodes ago. Folks, we are serious when we say that the bike Rohit rides is a fatty hottie special. That's why he calls it the Frankenberry. Hottie, you supplied the frame, but not the fork.
That's right, not the fork. Whether it was going to road or not, the frame was going somewhere, but the fork I kept. You see, the last iteration of my part of the Frankenberry was my Leadville experiment, a geared, rigid hardtail for maximum climbing prowess. And to round out that rigidness, I installed an NV mountain bike fork. The bike indeed had climbing prowess, but sadly I did not. So I decided to sell that experimental bike, but I kept the fork. It sat around for a while until one day my gravel bike had some kind of problem and I needed a gravel bike fast. So I grabbed that NV fork and another hardtail I had sitting around and put that carbon fork on that bike and made me a flat bar graveler.
You know, that sounds like a really good bike. It's a mountain bike essentially with a rigid fork. I've seen pictures of it. This yellow Niner with the NV wheels and the post and bars.
That's the one. Well, I put that NV fork on it, and I don't know, that was like 2.5 years ago, and it's still on there. There are a couple things I love about that fork. First, it's adjustable offset. I have it pushed back to calm down the steering, so it actually has less offset, and that means it's a more stable bike. The second is that cool fender that NV packages with the fork. You just clip it on, and it keeps most of the dirt off the rider. Then there's an updated version now that has cargo cage mount holes, but the rest of that fork is simply the same.
You know, Hadi, I got to say, I was more generous with Rohit than you were. I included NV wheels, cockpit, and seat post as part of my contribution to the Frankenberry. So he has the Frankenberry is not a slouch bike. It is an A+ bike. So I guess we can tell who Rohit's true friends are.
Rigid is not for everyone, but if you'd like to give it a go, then check out an NV carbon mountain bike fork. You can find it and all of Envy's Leadville-worthy gear at Envy, that's ENVE.com. We have managed to corral, no pun intended, a person quite busy planning our race day, and that is race director Tamira Jenlink. How busy is she? In addition to overseeing the LT100 mountain bike race, she is on top of every Leadville Series race that takes place in Leadville, the Silver Rush, the Marathon, and the Heavy Half, the Stage Race, the 100 Run, the Lead Man, Lead Woman, the 10K, all of it.
That is a seriously busy woman. We're super pleased because of that and for many other reasons to have her on, even though this race represents just a tiny fraction of what she's in charge of. What you're going to hear in this interview is an update on, as well as some changes to, the White Corral. If you're in White, you definitely want to listen up. And then you might want to rewind and listen again. Some news here. We also talk with her about the changes we saw last year and what will be around this year. And we get an update on safety.
If you want to hear Tamara's background story, go listen to Season 4, Episodes 24 and 25. We covered all that back then. This show is about this year's race. So here she is, your race director, Tamira Jenlink.
Super excited to spend this time with you. Thank you for staying the course those 18 months, showing back up, and let's go dig deep, and let's go get it tomorrow. Yeah!
Tamira Jenlink, welcome back. It is great to have you on the show again.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Looking forward to checking in and seeing where we are and sharing a few updates.
And we are looking forward to those too, as are our listeners. So let's start with what has kind of been a point of conversation in this podcast during this year, and that is waves and corrals. So now that we've got a taste of having wave starts, we want the world. So will the White Corral be broken up next year, or is it going to stay the same?
Way to dive right in. Thank you so much. Let's keep this simple. So actually, that's a great place to start. And so I think I heard in there that maybe there's some like of the waves. And the plan is, I think what we all saw to some degree, and I don't want to speak for the whole world, but I think what we saw was it broke up overall some of the bottlenecks at Kevins. It broke up some of the leaving. It made it a little safer, made it feel better to different waves throughout or different corrals throughout. And absolutely, the white corrals become a focal point as a result of that, because as we all know, there's a good chunk of folks back there in that corral. And it's on my list. And the way that I'm looking at it right now, and that we're discussing it as a team, is that indeed we will split it up and give some time between, and potentially up to 3 waves back within the white corral. And in that time span means we're going to have to adjust yet again a little bit around our timing. But the bigger goal is athlete experience. How do we make this a better overall experience so everybody gets to enjoy that piece that we kind of started with last year of decreasing the impact of those big numbers in the waves?
Yeah, the issue, I guess, with white last year, a couple of things. First of all, you had about a third to half the race in white, which is a lot. And second, that the white got shortchanged with the cutoff times. So will cutoff times for white be adjusted so it's something more equitable, so they have an even chance to get out to Twin Lakes outbound?
So everybody will have the same amount of time. So, one of the things that we learned last year, well, we learned a lot of things, honestly, last year. We introduced something that had never been a part of the series before and a part of this specific race. And I think in that, we also discovered, okay, where are some of the gaps that we can tighten up? And this whole idea around the timing of the back of the pack getting the same amount of time for the finish, super important. So what you'll see this year is that time will increase, and you're going to see very specific people at the finish start line making sure, and at each of our aid stations for cutoffs, really governing that. We're going to tighten up. We're going to get pretty strict on our cutoff times, but by the same token, we are going to make sure that everybody has the same amount of time. And it did get missed by a couple of minutes last year. Just in the introduction of a new item. And we've recognized that as, that's like our goal has always been about the middle, the back of the pack, and how that experience stays equitable for everybody, and making it correct and learning from that piece last year. So what you'll see is a little bit of an increase at our cutoffs to account for all of that. Then you'll also see an increased number of people throughout the aid stations really helping support that, as well as at start finish, you will see very clear, dedicated people making sure that everybody, because as we know, where we really get into the weeds on this is that 9-hour mark. What if I was at the back of the pack and I came in at, I was at the back in the white corral when I started, but I came in at 9:20. So that's where things get even more, not more important, but equally important. I think, right beside being cut off and not having a chance to finish is, did I get the right buckle? I mean, we've all put our hard efforts and all those pieces in there. So you'll see an increased amount of support, making sure that we've got everybody taken care of and really looking at those pieces clearly.
So is it as easy as extending the cutoff time to something a little later so white makes it in, or are you going to have to move corrals in front of white, maybe compact those a little bit or condense those racers a little bit and send more off in front of white? How does the math, how do the mechanics work there?
We're going to try to keep it as simple as possible so everybody can follow it and it makes sense. We're going to try to lay it out in a very matter of fact. It will all be updated. And part of this, we're not fully live on launching this piece. We're still working through the details to make sure this time that we've got all of those pieces accounted for and the mathematics worked out. But while your aid station cutoff times will probably extend a bit, that's the first thing that you'll see. While we look at this back sort of white corral and how we take care of those folks and break that up, and also the mathematics of really, I want to fine tune a tiny bit. I haven't fully decided that the times that we have between waves is perfect. So we're really looking at those a little more carefully as well to make sure that everything stays equitable there as well, and that we're balancing all of it. So we've got a number of factors that are under high scrutiny at the moment, and our team is reviewing carefully. And looking at, part of it, we're not going to know until we see who shows up come packet pickup day. We're going to have to really look at, in terms of numbers, right? We're not going to know all these people that we have in there. We have them corralled already, but we don't know who actually shows up on the start line. And we also want to make sure that those waves stay somewhat equitable in that whole piece as well. So if we have 300 people in one wave and only 100 in another, that we're looking at all those dynamics. So there's a lot of pieces and moving parts to this that I think we can give you a little more update a little bit later in the season as we get closer. But I think the big important message to me, to everybody out there, is we are really taking a very close microscope look at this, putting it under, really tearing it apart and deciding, how do we handle pipeline cutoff? How do we handle Carter cutoff? How do we handle twin legs, and how do we make sure that everything stays equitable across those dimensions?
Well, you've already got your headline, as far as I'm concerned, that there is going to be a white 1, white 2, possibly even white 3 corral. I don't know what you actually named them or whether they become separation in color, but I'm sure there are hundreds of racers who are standing up and cheering just because of that change right now. As far as cutoff times, to me, it seems like a super simple solution. You do cutoff time based on chip time, just like you do the finish line. So we'll let you figure it out. We'll ask the questions and look for the answers later.
Well, and it'd be nice if it's that simple and all the pieces work that way, Eldon. That's certainly a direction we'd like to go. And again, I think one of the things that we learned from last year is I'm slow to just make the final statement on this piece, because we saw where some of our errors were. And while things seem really simple from the broad view, sometimes as we dial in and look a little closer, we realize, okay, so do we have enough timing people there? Do we have the ability to discern? Do we have all these different pieces? And chip time seems like the logical piece, but then you've got to be able to manage that at the aid station as well. So there's some fine details.
Yeah, it's always been gun time for that reason. The cutoffs have been, because, it's just a nightmare trying to sort out people and their chips as they're coming across intermediate mats. And understandably, gun time's the easiest thing to do. You can just stand out there and put a ribbon up and go, sorry, folks, you're too late. We have to pull you off the course. It's a sad scene, but that's the way it works. Of course, the thing that happens, Tamara, as we discussed last time, is there is still this after 20 some odd years of Leadville 100, there's still this ongoing confusion about chip time versus gun time and what, which one applies, right? It's always been a struggle for racers understanding that, and for the messaging, for people, for that message to get out to the racers. And so again, we're going to sit here as, as enthusiasts for the Leadville 100 and tell folks, right now, unless Tamara changes the game, it's gun time for your cutoff time. It is chip time for your buckle time. That's really the rule you want to live by.
That's the rule you want to live by. And we'll just clarify, chip time, is when you cross the mat. So that's your time, is your chip time. That's going to define everything about your actual time. Your cutoff times in terms of gun time, the gun goes off. We adjust. So we already adjusted. And where we missed it was by 4 minutes, essentially, last year. We adjusted by 15 minutes, but it was actually a 19-minute gap over all of those. So what we have to look at is, if we're going to stick with gun time for cutoffs, and we add 2 waves in the white corral, and that adds another 4 minutes, then we're saying, okay, so cutoff is at 3:38 or whatever. That accounts for every person having the same equal opportunity. And that is the piece that we will make sure happens.
Do you have any idea yet how you're going to seed the white corral?
Not yet, but it's a great question. And it's certainly been on my mind as well, of how do we, again, equitably do that piece as well. And we have some ideas and some discussions, but I'll save that one for a future podcast.
I got a suggestion. You draw you draw rocks out of a hat, different colored rocks or marbles, and you're in a different corral based on what color marble you grab. Make it fun.
I'm going to tell him Eldon said so. Eldon said to do it this way.
Hey, I'm in green. I earned green.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And what I want to acknowledge, I think that feels really important to me, is why there is a white corral isn't even just about how fast or not fast you ride. It's about, am I able to come to a qualifier? Am I able to get into a qualifier? It's about so many dynamics, and that one is a hard piece to keep equitable as well. we can't all afford to go to Leadville more than once. Sometimes we can only manage to get ourselves there once, because of where we're coming, whether it's across the nation or across the world. So I think there's a lot of pieces for me that are under my awareness and how I look at that and trying to find the absolute fairest way. Are we going to hit it 100%? We're going to probably miss something, and that's not the intention. And I'm not creating a disclaimer. I just want some honesty that we're working hard at trying to figure this out and put it into a more equitable framework.
I got to say, the fact that you made changes at all, that you made a change on the wave starts, which is something I've been asking for forever, is a huge deal. And the fact that you are now thinking about making things a little bit lighter and less congested for the folks in the White Corral, people who, are really the people who have Leadville as a bucket list race. I love that you're paying attention to them and to their experience. Let's talk a little bit about changes that were made last year and whether they're going to remain this year. And that is the course changes. So there were a couple course changes last year. Are they going to hold for this year, or are they reverting, or is there something new?
I think the couple of changes you're talking about are we routed around a chunk of private property, and that piece will hold absolutely. That is a sustainability issue that really supports our local private property owners and decreases impact. You're going to hear me talk about this all summer long at races, podcasts, athlete guides, in person, wherever I am, talking about how we can show up in Leadville. And one of those pieces gets right back to how we show up in this race. And that piece is just a really, I think, an important partnership of how we can decrease impact overall. So that will not change. We will keep the course where it was there. The other change I think you're referring to, there's actually a couple, but the other one is outbound. We're on single track. On inbound, we go up past the single track to come back in. That's a safety issue. That will stay the same as well. It will be a very important, I think, component that helps maintain everybody's experience. It also means that folks coming down the single track who are maybe a little bit further back still get that opportunity to execute that and don't get hung up, and people coming up, in that elite or that beginning of the race series or whoever's out in front. Now we've created a little bit more equitability that feels really important, again, by having that reroute of, inbound, you're going past that, not going up the single track so everybody gets the same opportunity.
And the last one would be the turnaround is just a little bit sooner at the top of Columbine. Is that sticking?
That's sticking. And honestly, because of what we have seen up there by being able to split that smaller section where we have uphill and downhill traffic actually split, that really helped us a lot. And ultimately, it's a beautiful turnaround spot. It's perfect. There's room. It saves a little bit of wear and tear on the tundra up there, which is really important as well in terms of just getting vehicles and access and all of that. And it's a perfect spot. So ultimately, just sustainability-wise, that will stay there, but also mileage-wise, of course, because of the other changes.
Yeah, I don't need the Leadville 107. This race is long enough.
Next year, we're making it 110 just for you, Alden.
I know. It keeps sneaking up. Another change we saw last year was a limitation on the number of crew members each racer could have out on course. I don't know if that was due to a hangover from COVID or impact on the community or what have you, but what are you forecasting right now as far as that's concerned? I
think it's a great question, and this plays into a very large objective that I have, an initiative that I'm under right now, in being present in Leadville, being a person who lives here, and really having invested in conversation with the community in terms of how we can show up here. One of the big components that we all have to remember, and it's a struggle because we worked so hard to get to this point, and I'm so looking forward to seeing all of our Leadville bike family back. And when we show up, 1,500 people for the start line, 1,600 people for the start line, whatever that might be, and then our families, we have suddenly tripled the population of Leadville. That's one aspect of this whole piece, is how we impact and how we show up in this community. So what started with a COVID piece of safety We also have to start to look at vehicles. How many vehicles are we putting where, and where are those vehicles landing, and how are we taking care of the backyard that we're showing up in? We want to work to keep our crews and our spectators available and able to access in very specific spots. And we want to find that middle ground, that partnership with the community that helps it feel like we have some regard for how we show up here and how that impact happens. So forecasting, something similar in terms of a vehicle. One of the things that we did do last year was 2 adults and children. We weren't really stipulating on the children so much as, and that doesn't mean, Eldon, that you get to be a children in that role, or myself, but trying to keep the families together. So we know that there's plenty of families who come out to support their racer. So, if we can work towards that goal right now, that's what we're forecasting. And a lot of that's hard. We would love to say, bring everybody you have. And we do have to think about how many of us there are when we bring that all together in a town of 3,000 and you suddenly have 9,000 people. That has an impact. But it also has an impact on the crew and spectator experience as well, for how you're able to get and navigate to those aid stations. Like that traffic gets backed up, as we all know. So it's an attempt across all dimensions to create some equitability, again, sustainability, lower the footprint, take good care of our athletes at the same time, have everybody have a good experience.
One of the questions that we received in our Facebook poll, so one of our listeners had this to ask. We've heard about shuttling options for crews to reduce parking and crowding. Is that true?
It is true, and it's one of our big initiatives that we'll put in place for, it's a 2 to 5 year vision, or a 1 to 5 year vision, I guess. And this year I will have a more comprehensive shuttle plan in place that allows us to move people about from Expo Day. So we have 2 days before Mountain Bike of Expo, and that shuttle will be there. We'll be really encouraging our athletes, spectators, crews for the Expo, for packet pickup, for all of that. We have designated parking areas on the west side of town, on the west side of Harrison. And the goal here is to, again, decrease impact. This is a big piece coming back from being available to what the community is feeling as an impact and how we can meet them in that. And so the shuttle service will bring people from the community fields, from the high school, from the middle school parking areas up to town. And then it will be available and looping very clearly. We will update here shortly on every page. There'll be a shuttle tab that gives you a shuttle schedule. So during the Expo days, it'll just loop from the community fields parking area up to the start-finish or not start-finish, but the Expo area for packet pickup. And then on race day, it will loop up to start-finish. And then after start-finish, we'll start to move those shuttles around and be moving out to Twin Lakes, specifically for the mountain bike arena. In that, we will then, once we have kind of everybody who wants to be out at Twin Lakes, we'll have shuttles still going back and forth, but we'll also have shuttles helping with the parking. So if you're finding yourself having to park a little bit from the dam, that we're able to help you get up a bit closer. It's going to be a shift, a cultural shift of, moving together and deciding together that we're going to lessen our footprint, lessen our impact, and kind of work together at this piece. So really inviting and encouraging all of us to take part in that. And take a look at those shuttle schedules as they start to show up. They should be in place for the hundreds within 6 weeks of those events. The shuttle plan will be in place. But what you can expect for the mountain bike is you will have service available to you. We will be moving you about town and trying to help decrease that overall impact. It will be very clear. It will be labeled. It will be marked. There will be parking attendants to help you park, and there will be shuttles right there available to pick you up and take you up to packet pickup, to take you up to start finish, to take you out to your aid stations. And the more we can work together at this, I think, is a huge benefit and return to Leadville.
Which kind of gets us to our next question too, Fatty. I mean, we posted this question on the Facebook page about whether folks were interested to know what the locals thought of us showing up. What are the biggest, complaints, concerns by Leadville locals about our presence there? Tamira, you're the ultimate conduit here. Tell us, what can we do? I mean, obviously not everyone is happy all the time, 100%. There's obviously things we can do to ensure that this race is there for the long haul, and it probably starts with us. What are some of those things that we can improve on?
Yeah, this is a huge area. I think in general, Howdy, I have spent a lot of time asking these questions of Leadville. What are you experiencing? What's working for you? What's not? And some of the big pieces. And on the flip side, I'll also say to our athletes, spectators, and crews, I can't tell you how many emails I get saying, hey, we love Leadville. What can we do? How can we show up? What do you need from us? What do you want from us? How can I volunteer? How can I be a part of? And I think this is where we get to collaborate and be the greatest partners together. And so to kind of get to the heart of that question, Leadville is a small community that experiences parking issues long before we ever get there. So imagine when we show up, the impact in addition. So this is a long-standing place. And this is one of the biggest places that the town feels it is in kind of that congestion of downtown. And so we're going to really work to route our race traffic down to those parking areas that I discussed earlier. And I think this piece, it seems like I'm repeating myself, but I also feel like I do hear everybody asking, how can we help? And this is the biggest way, is that we can start to engage in this shuttle piece. The other pieces are the typical things. We all get in a hurry. We drop a piece of trash. We're racing. We drop something by mistake. We're crewing somebody. We're worried about getting out to the next crew spot. We forget some things. We work hard to come behind and really support that. But how we show up in those places and just take that extra 30 seconds and pick up those pieces of garbage, pick up all of our items that we brought with us before we race to the next section. These are crucial things that everybody notices. And the town is super stoked to have us at the same time. Like, it's a real balancing piece, right? Like, they appreciate so much about what we bring by coming and the pieces that they're asking for. Can you believe it? We still sometimes have people going to the bathroom in alleyways, so really I'm going to work hard to have more toilets available in the right places. We're working to refine that piece, but just taking that extra 5 minutes, that's the hard part. And this is not 100% of our crews or our spectators or our athletes, but it's just an invitation and an ask for all of us to be our best selves, show up and be awesome humans, awesome athletes, awesome spectators, and just remember that we are in Leadville's backyard. That's the ask, really, and take that pause and just think for a second, like, yep, I really have to go, and I appreciate it. We've all been in that place where we're about to start the race and we need a bathroom break, and we've got to figure out what to do in that spot, and let's take care of this natural resource. I really look at it like we are gifted an enormous privilege to host these races here.
So Tamira, last question, important question. After last year's tragedy, safety is on everyone's mind. Are there any safety enhancements or your message for folks about being safe?
Yeah, it's huge on our minds, Eldon, and thank you for asking that question. And it has been something that I've been working with closely with the city, with the county, with our Colorado State Patrol, with additional staffing. One of the big pieces that you will see on race day this year for the 100 mountain bike is we will have an increase of support across the whole course. Just at this point, given where we are and what we're seeing and what we know is important about our athletes and keeping everybody safe, we will increase that support and you will see more folks visible. We'll have, where we've had 2 volunteers, we might have 4. We might have 3. We might have, depending where it was 1, we'll increase that staffing and we will make sure that all of those areas are even more, critically supported. And I also think it's a piece of how we talk together about how we're going to be on course together. So I can put as many staff out there, or our team can put as many staff out there as we possibly can. And at the end of the day, we have to take care of each other while we're out there as well. So there is both sides of this coin, but you will see an increase of staffing. You will see an increased focus on, reminding that we are on public roads all the way through this. And there is motorists where we will try to control that. We are still on public terrain to be doing this course. I'm going to work hard. Our team is working hard to make sure that we increase the safety measures that we can. We have a unified command. We have additional resources in terms of medical law. just increased, in terms of what we're seeing pandemic-wise, increase of human, like all the different elements of how we can help support this and keep it safe, you will see an increase of overall support across all those fields.
Tamira, this has been a great start. A lot of questions answered here. We're looking forward to talking with you again soon.
Thanks, you guys, very much for having me on. There is so much more that we look forward to sharing and certainly keeping you updated on as we move through it. It's always a privilege and a treat to be here with you guys, and I appreciate the questions. I appreciate you helping bring the voice of your audience to the race series as well. That's a huge piece that we want to hear. We want to know what they need to know, what they want to know. So thank you for that.
Again, thanks to Tamira Jenlink for coming and being on the show. Obviously, lots on the table still, so we will have her back on again soon to cover more ground, get more of your questions answered. Hadi, I've been thinking a lot about what our recent guest, Dr. Kevin Sprouse, told us last episode regarding hydration. He was talking about how adding something to your water is super important. And as you recall, he said a drink mix with some carbs and sodium is what you're after because they both help with your hydration equation.
Yeah, one thing we didn't talk about was flavor. I like having a little flavor in my fluids, even when I'm not exercising. It just encourages the drinking. Scratch, which is carried by our friends at the feed, makes a great on-the-bike mix that many of us know and love. It has the right balance of carbs, sodium, and electrolytes, but at 20 grams of carb per serving, it may be a bit much for off-the-bike hydration.
Yeah, that's why we're glad to see this new product, and it comes from scratch, available from the feed. It's called Scratch Clear. It's more of an all-day hydration mix. 13 grams of carbs, almost as much sodium as the sports mix. Scratch Clear is perfect for your bottles for when you are walking around and not maybe stomping on the pedals, climbing Columbine. The feed is a sponsor of the show. They are the largest online marketplace for athletes to shop sports nutrition, high-performance supplements, as well as recovery gear. Everything you need to make your workout as good as it possibly can be.
My order for Scratch has already arrived. Scratch Clear, that is. Scratch Clear comes in single servings or the 1-pound bag, and it is available now at the feed, as is your credit courtesy of this show.
That's right. You can get an $80 annual credit from thefeed.com/Leadville. You just go ahead and register your email, you verify your phone number, and then you get $20 in credit. You can use that right away. Every quarter, you get another $20.
All right, let's wrap this episode. Again, thanks to Tamira Jenlink for a great discussion and some news that should make a lot of racers very happy. Fatty and I are on social media. On Twitter, it's @FatCyclist, and on Instagram, you can find me @Michael Houghton. Of course, we're both on the Facebook Leadville 100 Mountain Bike Participants page. And if you want to have a conversation, join our Slack channel. You'll find a link to it over at leadville.fm/Slack.
Yeah, and if you like this show, please go wherever you listen. Give us the best possible review you can. Give us 5 stars, give us 7 stars. See if you can get up to 9 stars for all the ways that you can find this show and give us the best reviews possible. Please go to leadville.fm.
Yeah, keep reviewing and rating and over. There's no harm. There's no law against that, I don't think. You can also tell your racing friends, too, about this show. It's actually the very nicest thing you can do to help spread the word about our independent podcast.
Yeah, word of mouth. What a crazy concept. Good luck in your riding. Good luck in your racing. Good luck in your recovery. Thanks so much for listening, and we are going to see you at Twin Lakes Alternate and on the Columbine Climb.